and then you deliver the product. But everyone is just a small difference. Some people deliver the product just to match the points, ticking them off one by one. Those people, 3 years, 5 years down the line, none of them stick around, they all end up quitting. But there are others who deliver the product in exactly the same way, but in their minds, they know that a customer who falls in love with the product will eventually become an Atomy business partner. Those people are delivering to consumers. Do you think they quit, or do they stick with it? They don't quit. It's just a tiny difference, but in the end, the speed at which you grow a massive organization is completely different. So everyone, it's really just a subtle difference, but ultimately, the information I have needs to be replicated exactly to my partners. That's why they say you need to become a good tree. And even the way you speak, it needs to be replicated exactly as well. They leave this part out and just keep saying, oh, you need to reach 300,000 points. Since you have to hit 300,000 points, hurry up and pass it on. This is how things get distorted again. This is how the message gets passed along. Do you know what happens then? Even if I don't do it that way, if my next partner or the one after that does, they'll think, oh man, when am I ever going to sell all this and become auto? And that's when they quit. So in the end, even if you work really hard, if it can't be duplicated, what happens? They end up quitting. That's why I told you before. Even people who worked hard, reached all the ranks and achieved everything. What happens if they quit in the end? It's not just about me alone. This business is about teamwork. You have to keep that in mind over and over again. So you need to stay humble, work together, be willing to listen, and keep duplicating the same things. What is that duplication? It means there's no sign-up fee, no maintenance fee, no monthly maintenance cost, and that customers who fall in love with the product become business partners. And when it comes to duplication, you have to duplicate the simplest things. If you just pass on only this, looking back now, I feel like I took such a roundabout way for something so simple. If I had just gone the easy way, the 2 lines would have grown smoothly. But I feel like I took the long way around. So I really regret that lost time. But still, there are people like that, right? The ones who say it's still difficult, even after all that. It means there's still some residue left in their minds. Then it just takes even more time. I washed all of that away and started over again. And looking back, I realized that just doing what successful people told me to do was actually the easiest way, but I regret so much that I took such a roundabout path. So in the end, I realized that even if it's just one thing, it really needs to be taught properly. I'm grateful for that realization. That's what happened. You understand, right? In the end, it's not enough for just me to do well. When I explain something, my partner needs to be able to convey it the same way. So how can you know if that's happening? Ask them questions. Boss, why would it be a miracle if you don't succeed? I'm telling you, ask them. But we tend to think they'll know just because we've talked about it a lot. But who is the one who talked a lot? It's me. I'm the only one who knows. But my partner says something completely different. So the other day, Imperu said this to me. You know how I always report to him, right? Since I've been sharing news about my big successes, he said this. Hey, now that it's been a year, people are finally starting to understand a little. What did he say? He said they understood a little, right? But in the end, it means they didn't really get it. Why? If they really understood, their actions would show it. People would be joining in droves, but that's not happening, is it? That means this remaining part is still a debt. Even though we've done all this, it's still not working. If this is the result, it means they still haven't understood. I've experienced this myself. I went through that phase too. Imperlum kept trying to teach me, but I had my own, but that's not it. I had my own way of thinking. So in the end, because of my stubbornness and ego, I kept clashing with what was being said, thinking it wasn't right. But looking back after some time had passed, in the end, what they said was right, but I just couldn't realize it. So what happens then? Imperlum was just waiting. So what about me? Only time kept getting wasted. Isn't that such a waste? But that's just how it is. Like I said before, even if we study history, people, humans, just keep repeating the same things, They say people never change. So in the end, someone has to experience a strong shock. So what is that strong shock? When I look at my own life, I wonder, what really counts as a strong shock? I think people only change when they feel their livelihood is truly threatened. When you really feel like your job is almost gone, you realize you have to change Atomy quickly. At times like that, you try to listen, you try to focus, and you think, this is it. Until something like that really happens, people aren't really shocked. So even if they hear something, they forget it and they don't really act on it. So what happens? We have to be patient, wait, and stick together. You understand, right? And the second mistake I made was, it's about super dream. There's something important here. There are so many cases where people ruin their organization by only thinking about what's right in front of them. What I mean by this is, let's say I set my goal as super dream, earning 100 million a month. But honestly, even though we say that out loud, it doesn't really feel real to us, does it? Only that person is grateful. In their hearts, there are probably more people thinking, I'd be happy just becoming an auto sales master. So what kind of problem does this cause? You end up like a frog in a well. Let me draw a picture for you. Because your very own thoughts often get in the way, your entire organization simply doesn't grow. All these accumulated mistakes truly add up and ultimately become a significant problem. Here I am, and my only goal is to become an auto sales master. Let's say your sponsor told you to do it, but deep down, that's your real intention. Now let's see what kind of problem this causes. Maybe you get lucky and meet a good sponsor, or maybe you don't have enough ability, so you work on both sides, and one side grows a lot bigger. Then, which side do you end up focusing on? You end up only paying attention to the right side, right? But what's your goal? It's to become an auto sales master. So if your goal is to become an auto sales master, it's not like you're not doing the business. So what happens then? You keep looking for members and building downwards. Up to this point, that's fine. But do you know what the problem is here? Because I'm working here, there will definitely be some interested consumers who show up. And among those people, there will be some who want to do the Atomy business. But here's the problem. Let's say a star appears here like this. So what kind of mistake do people make with these kinds of people? Now, let's say you've reached Diamond Master. Then you are now an auto sales master. But this is the only picture you have. So, because I keep working without rest, I fall into the illusion that I can always recruit well on one side. This is scary, you know, it's really an illusion. But it's okay if no capable person shows up. If they're just people who use the products, and I only manage a few of them, not using the system, just ordering products, I could still become an auto sales master myself. There's no problem if it's like this. For example, let's say this star mark is ㅡ진아. If their personality is like ㅡ진아, what happens? These kinds of people just break out on their own. They think, my sponsor is half-baked. They don't get it. It's so frustrating. So what do? They go out looking for someone else. That's when the problem starts, when people like this appear. Why? Because they go above you, searching all the way up the system for a better sponsor. Now, if the sponsor above them teaches them to build 2 lines, there's no problem. But here's the mistake people make when they don't have the goal of becoming an auto sales master. They say, boss, since I'm working hard, one of your lines is growing well, so you only need to focus on the other side. This is a huge mistake. Why? Because you're actually stifling this person's potential. Do you understand what I mean? For example, let's say this person really goes to the sponsor above and after a lot of counseling, finally understands everything. Wow. And then, by sheer luck, my direct sponsor says they'll take care of one of my lines for me. What happens then? That's a thank you, right? So you go ahead and put a capable person here. Then what happens? This gets lopsided, right? Everyone attending the seminar is on the right side. There's not a single person on the left. Why is that? Because this auto sales master is satisfied with this. They don't even come to the seminar. So what happens then? That's a sign of decline. It's going to fail. So whose fault is that? It's the fault of the person above, the leader. If they had taught both lines from the start, it wouldn't matter. But since they're only working themselves, there's only one line. That's what it means to be a big fish in a small pond. So if you find Atomy difficult, this is the kind of thing that makes it hard. The size of your organization is the size of your heart. If your heart is only this big, you can only talk about things that fit in that bowl. But with Atomy, there are no mandatory rules, so you never know who might join. But if you end up blocking that person in a strange way, wouldn't it have been better to teach both lines from the start? Then this side could have grown. If you had opposed it, there wouldn't have been a problem. But do you know what happens? Because you made that slip of the tongue, this person will ask, why aren't you adding them? Why aren't the points showing up here? That's how it ends up. So what happens next? The boss will suddenly say something else like, no, you have to add them here. Then what happens? At this point, someone might leave, or it could even turn into a huge argument. So what happens when things go wrong like this? They call their sponsor and ask, sponsor, what should I do? And then, leaving out the fact that it was their own slip of the tongue, they ask, what should I do? They go and tattle that only one side is being added underneath. This is what drives people crazy, everyone. So, every situation is different. Maybe that person explained things accurately, or in cases like this, what happens if you say it this way? They're just lying. Why? Because if they get caught, the sponsor will ask, why did you say that? If that happens, they're done for. So they might lie just to avoid responsibility. That's what it is. If Atomy is difficult, it's because of things like this. How are you going to resolve issues when problems like this arise? That's why I tell you not to make careless remarks. Even if someone is just an auto sales master, you should still teach them properly. If you cut them off based on your own standards, those capable people will just leave. That's the scariest thing. The scariest thing is when you do that, you start to think, I'm working hard so I can raise at least one good person. But that's just an illusion. So everyone, this is really important. Of course, you can try to fix things later, but when problems arise, sometimes you can't fix them at all, and people just leave, and your whole organization can fall apart. There are many reasons and stories behind why people quit Atomy, but this is one of the issues as well. Do you understand? And then people start talking like this here, right? So even though that line is their own partner, what happens? And then the sponsor above gets a headache too. So they say, oh, that person is just not capable enough. So move to another line. That's how it goes. And then what happens? They're basically tearing each other down. So what I really felt at Atomy is that there really needs to be mid-level leaders. The way these mid-level leaders talk right now. So auto sales masters and auto diamond masters should be guiding people properly. But I really wonder how many of them are actually giving proper guidance. That's why I thought, if things go on like this, I'm going to have a headache too. Why? Because even within my own downline, even though I keep teaching them through Zoom meetings and talking to them, just a few days ago at Success Academy, someone said to me, if I do it that way, will I succeed too? So what does that tell you already? That means what I said didn't get through to them. In the end, that person is thinking, oh, I can't sell like that. As soon as I saw that, I thought, I need to address this quickly. So I focused on that person and said, boss, huh? You cleared up your misunderstanding today, didn't you? And then he said, yes, and left. When that happens, the person stays, and next time they come back feeling more comfortable. So actually, when you have those kinds of worries, boss, just do what you're good at. Boss, what are you good at? Oh, just bringing people here? Hey, even that's something, isn't it? And then you have to teach them one by one. Creating that kind of atmosphere is also part of teaching. You have to teach naturally while creating the right atmosphere. A few days ago, one of our partners called me and said, oh, Master Charolus, you're really right, you're right. What you said as a sponsor is absolutely true. So I asked, why? And then they said, gasp. There's no need to say anything. If I just set the example, that's all it takes. Master Charolus, you always show us by example. Since Master ㅡㅡㅡ Charolus always demonstrates it, I do the same. And now all my partners are doing it too. They're doing so well. What do I always say? I'm telling you, there's no need to keep saying it. Just show them. If you show them, they realize it themselves and start doing it. But if I don't show them and only talk about it, then it starts to feel like some weird multi-level marketing scheme. That's why you have to lead by example. You understand, right? And third, just explain it simply. Don't make it complicated. Let me say it again. Making it simple isn't for your own sake, everyone. It's for your partner. Think about it for a moment. You wonder, why is it so hard to get people to attend seminars, right? That difficulty means that you might be explaining things in a complicated way to the other person, or you might be coming across as if you're trying to sell them something. This is really important, everyone. If it looks like a sales business, what's the thing that everyone finds the hardest? It's selling. Is selling easy? No one thinks so. Because selling is the hardest thing. When someone sees me, they think, I can't do that. And that's why they don't get involved. Do you understand what I mean? So, for example, let's say I did Atomy in a way that was visible to others. But that person saw me, but they didn't come to the seminar. But what should I say first? Oh, I just use these products myself, and I do this just to show others. I'm not selling this. I'm just trying to explain Atomy's membership and let people know how consumers can benefit. If you just say this one thing, oh, really? It goes like this. But do you know what happens if you just show it off? Wow, I can't sell like that. That's what happens. It's just a small difference. But everyone, 3 years and 5 years, are completely different. You know what I mean? Now, moving on to the next line development. The important thing is, for beginners, when you're developing your line, what happens when people with network experience or similar backgrounds see this? There are people who think, oh, I want to get this person to work, so I'll put people on their left and right to get them moving. Thank you. But Imperial tells you to build 6 lines. That's correct. But from what I've seen in the end, it's about raising 2 leaders on each side. But in my experience, as someone without network experience, that's not easy. So if things get too spread out, there are actually fewer people who really immerse themselves in Atomy. That's why what I explain is that you need to quickly teach how to draw the genealogy chart, starting from line development. At that time, I had a meal meeting with some Chinese partner leaders. If I hadn't taught them about line development at that time, everything would have just been scattered. That's what I told them. You need to have family members sign up with family and friends sign up with friends. Do you know why? You need to ask them like this. Why? Because we don't have any mandatory rules. Our job is to turn people who are just lying down into B. So for example, let's say I sponsored 100,000 points. But let's say you signed up a capable person named A on the right side here. B is the capable person. But even if I want to accumulate points for B, let's say there are number 1 and number 2 below here. If I put 100,000 points into number 2, it only connects upward and B can't receive the sponsorship. So even if someone is really capable or seems like they do well with Atomy, since there's nothing visibly coming down to them, they end up quitting in the end. That's what I was saying. Oh, I was going to add someone here, but I guess that's not going to work. If we hadn't met or had this meeting today, it could have been a big problem. So everyone, you really need to teach them how to build their lines quickly from the start. If you explain it like this, it naturally leads to you just building 2 lines straight down. Then, as it branches out like a bunch of grapes, you can do genealogy consultations according to each subsequent situation. But you need to explain this first step before anything else. There's a huge difference between people who do and don't explain this, everyone. That's why, after the session, my partner boss, sponsor, thank you so much. That was almost a disaster. Things almost got scattered here, so I always say this. I always talk about avoiding dispersion. Boss, as for me, my mom had experience with network marketing, and Atomy was her 8th company. But the reason my mom started Atomy late, even though she did a lot of sales, is that if she had received the commission 3 times in a row, she would have recognized Atomy's potential sooner. But it was just luck of the draw, because she wasn't earning much. So she kept looking for other network marketing companies. So because I had that experience, I decided not to spread myself thin and to focus on just one thing. I created an environment where the people lying dormant on the left and right could get moving, and then things really took off. That's what I talked about. Then my partner sign-up started saying the same thing. Oh my, when I really think about it. I joined in June, and already, thanks to Atomy, I've received cash back 10 times. So that person was really someone who could do well. I wanted to grow my business in China. But that person was already at the top, ranked 1st or 2nd in the Chinese insurance business. So would she even look at this? Or would she not? She wouldn't even give it a glance, because she has to focus on what she's doing now. But after joining Atomy and seeing the commissions keep coming in, things started to change little by little. On top of that, she really saw the effects of the blood sugar cut product. 10 years ago, when she used Atomy cosmetics, she thought they were cheap and didn't even bother to look at them. But now, she says Atomy has changed so much, and through her, all these incredibly talented people who seem like they're going to do really well have started flocking in. But when I think about it, I feel like it took me way too long to get started in China. It took me about 8 years to finally find truly reliable partner signups. But before that, thank you. Why didn't they show up? It was because I didn't have enough experience. I didn't know the culture either. And now I've finally come to understand the concepts of Chinese expatriates, Han Chinese and overseas Koreans properly. So in the end, when I finally met someone I truly thought was amazing, someone I could recognize as real talent, I also gained more experience myself. I realized I need to focus more on the culture, be more careful with my words, and also be mindful of things like expatriates, Han Chinese, and so on. Depending on how you approach and talk about things like expatriates, it can all turn out differently. So I started to focus more and pay closer attention. As I interacted and built relationships with that person, I realized that trust was built over time. But when I thought about it, none of that really matters. Everyone moves when there's money involved. In the end, when the direct sponsor above maintains Atomy Sales Master, that person has 5 people on each side who attend seminars. So with 5 people on each side, Atomy sales should be easy, right? When you became a semi-sales master, what did I teach you? I told you not to spread yourself thin, but to focus on just one person on each side, no matter what, whether that person does it or not. So with one person on each side, as long as this person maintains their semi-sales master status, both sides have received the commission 10 times from June until now. Now that I think about it, I think I've also received it 10 times. That's how it happened. But what really made the new partner boss understand quickly this time was that I conveyed something very clearly. They were surprised by this. They realized there was no reason not to do it. While talking with that person, I got goosebumps all over my body. Why? They understood. What happened was, when they reached 300,000 points, they got a call. They were told, hey, you don't need to use your own account anymore. Instead, as a member under you, as member A, just order whatever you need using the A ID. That's what they said. Huh? If I order with the A ID, does that mean I still get 100% of the benefits? They went crazy over this. And usually people think you need to have a lot of connections. But back in 2013, my parents signed me up, remember? But all the direct members under my account, they all quit. They're all grayed out now. I saw that with my own eyes. So what did I say? You see this, right? Do I have even a single connection? No, I don't. Even though I don't, since there's no sign-up fee or monthly maintenance fee, you can go infinitely deep globally, and now you can see there are 13,000 members under me. And the people I met today, they're my partners now. When I said that, they were blown away, like, wow, it's real. This is all through connections of connections. It's not my own network, it's through other people's networks. So I told them, you just need to join the system. You can even just sell to me, and you can run this business as a boss. And when they realized they could actually run a business like that, they were convinced. Everyone, you need to say this confidently. This isn't about asking someone to do you a favor. With Atomy, once you reach 300,000 points, you don't even have to buy under your own ID. That means you can help someone else. But since everything is shared 100%, 10 people are better than 1, and 100 people are better than 10. If you make them understand this clearly, there's no reason not to do it. So that person understood, and I put some points in there for them. What happens as you put them in? Everyone, I see this as a kind of skill. What do you think happens if you add a little bit at a time as they start to understand? Dopamine just starts flowing. Then you get hooked. And then you think, wow, but I'm not doing this alone, am I? It's teamwork again, isn't it? Since we're doing it together, we can get cash back even faster, right? So what happens then? You don't skip seminars? So everyone, as you keep gathering, consulting, and having meetings together, do you think going to seminars will become boring? Or will it be fun? You end up looking forward to that day. That's why those who have maintained their auto sales master status say that seminars are so much fun, that they're really enjoyable. So what does that mean in the end? It means they've understood. That's why timing is very important in this business. Direction. So everyone, this is a leader's game. In the end, how did I end up with such a large organization? It's because I understood. If I don't understand, everyone, no matter how hard I work for 100 days, my partners won't stay in the seminar. Do you understand what I mean? It's very important.